I briefly wanted to go over the role of the government in biotechnology. This goes mainly back to previously when we were talking about genetically engineered crops and animals. Like I said, there are no animal products that are commercially available as genetically modified organisms. A lot of the genetically modified organisms are plants, or all of them are plants at this point. Now, there have been examples of genetically engineered animals in the past, such as aquamanaged salmon, which basically allow the salmon to grow a lot faster than normal. But those genetically engineered salmon are not commercially available today. But there are a couple of organizations that help oversee the distribution and quality assurance of genetically modified organisms. And those are the Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, and the National Bioethics Advisory Commission. And if you've had me an intro to ag or food science, you've heard of these before. They're basically the exact same slides, but I'm going to go through it just because I think it's important to know. So the FDA recommends and writes policies regarding food and drugs, and they decide whether or not a product or medicine is safe. And this can be a very controversial and challenging position to be in because, as we know, genetically modified organisms are very controversial. And for some people, especially those who do not know where their food comes from, it can be very challenging and scary to think about at first. So being in the FDA and being in this position, in this role, is very important and should not be taken lightly. The other one is the more unofficial guide for the POTUS, the President of the United States, and that is the National Bioethics Commission. And this group of individuals provides advice to POTUS, and they do not specifically enforce or create policies like the FDA does. And they are the unofficial guide, as I mentioned. So in class, if we return, we will have a discussion on these items. So kind of think about this and maybe talk about it with mom or dad or a sibling or an aunt or uncle or someone or a friend in this class. But why should or should not the government regulate GM crops and foods? GM foods are currently not required to be labeled, and should they be labeled, do you think? And lastly, is the government doing too much to regulate our food or not enough? So there you have it. Brief overview of animal biotechnology. We talked about genetic engineering, selective breeding in the very beginning. And then we also kind of focused in on some specific laboratory and in the field kind of reproductive or biotechnologies that are common here in the industry today. So we'll briefly review these learning targets. Hopefully by now you can describe the structure and function of deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. You can define biotechnology in your own words. You can demonstrate a simple gel electrophoresis procedure. You can demonstrate a simple PCR procedure. And if we come back in person, we will be doing both of those here in the lab. We can demonstrate the reasons behind and procedure of cloning animals. We can compare and contrast different animal reproductive biotechnologies. I believe we talked about nuclear transfer, in vitro fertilization, cloning, and artificial insemination. You can articulate your biotechnology beliefs, and you can explain the role of the government in regulating biotechnology efforts. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions about biotechnology or anything that we've covered here in this lesson, feel free to reach out at an email or a phone call. Have a great rest of your day.